So, growing up, I was never introduced to Jesus. I had a good childhood until I was in about 5th grade, and then my parents fell into some pretty bad addiction problems, and it pretty much just got worse from there. They were constantly fighting, and being the oldest sibling of 2 sisters and a little brother, I felt like it was my responsibility to take them away from it and make sure that they weren't exposed to it as much as possible. And it was very tough. And then when I was in like 6th grade, it got super bad, and my mom took us to go stay with my grandma. And it was okay. She was doing better until June of 2011. My uncle passed away, and it devastated everyone. But she fell back into her addictions, and she got back with my dad. And I just couldn't do it anymore. I didn't want to be around that, and I wanted to go to school. So I moved with my aunt and uncle, and they would take me to school, and I was happy, and I was hanging out with my friends, and everything was good. And one day, I got a call, and it was my grandma, and she told us that my parents both went to jail, and the cops brought the kids to her house. It was rough ever since then. She gave us everything she could offer, but it was tough. She was raising 4 kids again, and she had to keep a job, and it wasn't easy. She had a lot of stress, and I just felt like I didn't get enough attention and love like I wanted, like I was showed when I was a child, and it made me seek for it in other ways. I had a new boyfriend every week, and I thought the only way that they were gonna love me or show me attention and affection is if I did what they wanted to. And I tried replacing the love of my parents and the love of my family with boys, and it wasn't right in the end, and I made a lot of mistakes. I had been to church a couple times, and my friends would constantly invite me, but I would always tell them how I didn't like it, and it made me feel vulnerable, and I just didn't want to be there. And they just kept asking me. And then one day I went over to my best friend's house on a Wednesday night, and she was going to Sanctuary, and so I figured, why not? Like, she said it's a lot of fun and they have free food. So I went, and there was this crazy man named Michael Thompson who gave us both a hug and told us that he loved us, and I had never met him before, but for the first time in so long, I felt like he truly meant it, and he truly loved me, and I didn't have to give him anything in return. And it completely changed my outlook on going to church, because it felt like a safe place, a place where I was loved. And so I continued going, and I'd go every single Wednesday night. But it was still mainly just for my friends. And then summer of 2013, I went to summer camp. I just remember walking outside when we were released for prayer, and I just felt an overwhelming sense of love and acceptance, and it was something like I've never felt before. I knew then and there that it was God, and that He loved me, and that for once He was always going to love me, and it completely changed my life. That moment changed my life. That same weekend, I had the opportunity to get baptized at 5 o'clock in the morning at Forest Home, and it was freezing. But it was something that I'll never forget, and something that I'll tell my children about. My mom got custody of us again, and she's been clean ever since. And since then, I've seen God work through the rest of my family as well. For a few years, I was the only one that went to church, and it was so difficult sometimes. Constantly, I would pray to God that my family would come to know Christ like I have. And they never really saw things the way I did, and I'd get in arguments with my mom because she didn't believe the things that I did. Then one day, March of this year, my family just decided, like, hey, let's all go to church. And they were skeptical about coming to Sanctuary at first, but they tried it, and they fell in love with it the first time. My aunts come, and my mom comes, my grandma, and all of my siblings and all of my cousins, and they all love it. Everyone who knew me before and knows me now could see the change that knowing Christ has done in my life. I think out of all the days in the week, I look forward to Wednesday nights the most. Not only do I have good friendships and good relationships with all the leaders, but it keeps me grounded, and it's just a safe place where I can go and open up and know they'll always be there for me. Since 2013, I've been to every single camp, and every single camp has changed me in so many ways that I couldn't even tell you them all. This last summer camp, God spoke to me in ways that I've never felt before, and He's called me to do things for Him. I think one of the things that He calls me to is to be a leader here at Sanctuary Church. And all weekend I was praying, like, for Him to show me what He wants me to do next so that I could follow the road that He wants me to take. And then one of the leaders came up to me and asked me to help lead junior high girls on Wednesday nights. And it was just, I knew right then and there that that was God speaking to me, and that's what He wants me to do. Even on the way home from camp, I felt God speaking to me. And I've always thought about going away for college and like going to Arizona and stuff, but it was just crazy because all of a sudden those plans were gone. Those plans were mine, not His. And I think one thing that He calls me to do is to stay local, even if it's just for a few years. But I think He really wants me to be a leader here and change students' lives like all the leaders have changed mine because they're working for God. Coming on Wednesday nights to Sanctuary has truly changed my life, and if you're a student here, I encourage you to come. And I've been in your position before and you're skeptical about it and maybe you're afraid, but I know that once I stepped out of my comfort zone and came, it has changed so many things and has benefited me in so many ways that I couldn't even explain.